I saw a guy who looked exactly like me, and my parents totally freaked out. Posting from a throwaway because I don't want this connected to my main. This whole thing still feels fake, like I'm living in someone else's memory or something. I, 28M, am just a normal dude, I swear. Work in IT, rent a one-bedroom, get drunk at weddings, and only text my parents when it's their birthday or someone's in the hospital. Normal. So I was in Portland 2 weekends ago. I live in Sacramento, but a friend from college was getting married, and I owed him a drunken best man speech. Everything was great, until I walked into this little coffee shop Sunday morning, nursing a hangover and needing caffeine before the flight home. And there he was. I stopped in the doorway because the guy at the counter looked like he was staring at me. And I don't mean like, oh hey, he glanced at me, I mean he was full-on bug-eyed, frozen, like I'd just pulled a gun. I thought maybe he was having some kind of episode until I realized I was staring back just as hard. Because the guy looked exactly like me. Same height, same build, same brown curls that never lay flat no matter how much product you use. He was even wearing a hoodie that looked like one I used to own in college. We stood there for a good 5 seconds before I said, what the hell? He kind of laughed, nervously. Said, I was about to ask the same thing. Then, like a dumbass, I blurted, are you messing with me? He said no. Then I asked him if this was some TikTok prank. Still no. We sat down. We had to. It was too weird not to. His name was Alex. He lived in Seattle, was in Portland visiting friends for the weekend. We showed each other our IDs. Same birthday. Same goddamn year. He showed me a picture of his mom. Not my mom, but his eyes. Jesus. Same as mine. We spent like 2 hours talking. Every 5 minutes we'd stop and just look at each other, like, is this real? People around us were definitely noticing, but we didn't care. I was trying to keep it light, joking that maybe I was still drunk from the wedding, but my stomach felt like it was folding in on itself. Eventually we exchanged numbers, took a selfie together. I'll never post it, it's too freaky, and parted ways. He seemed chill, like a guy the first could actually be friends with, if he wasn't a goddamn clone of me. I didn't think too much about it for a day or two. Flew home, slept it off, but something kept poking at the back of my brain. The way he talked, the way he laughed. I remembered how my mom used to joke that I had an invisible twin, growing up because I'd talk to myself in my crib. At the time, it was cute. Now, not so much. I called Alex later that week. We talked for hours. Turns out we both hate peanut butter, have the same scar on our left eyebrow, mine from falling off a bike, his from a bookshelf, and get motion sick on buses. We both sleep on our sides and do this weird knuckle-popping thing when we're nervous. You can't fake that. Finally, I asked him if he ever wondered if he was adopted. He said no, but now he was kind of freaking out. I told him my parents were always super vague about my early childhood, never any baby photos before age 2. And he said his adoptive parents always told him they chose him, but he assumed that meant they were just being sentimental, not literal. We laughed it off, but something shifted in my chest. I wasn't just curious anymore. I was scared. 2 days later, I called my mom. I asked if there was anything weird about my birth. She got weirdly defensive. Why are you asking this now? She said. I told her I'd been thinking about family stuff. She told me not to dig up old ghosts. When I asked her directly if I was adopted or had a twin, she went quiet. Then she said, you've always been our son. That's what matters, which is not a no. So I told Alex. He freaked out a little and said we should get a DNA test. I told him I was in. We ordered one from 23andMe. I spat in a tube that night. And now I'm waiting for proof that my life might be a complete lie. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe I thought it would come back inconclusive, or say we were cousins or something weird but explainable. Something that would let me put this whole thing in a box and go back to work, back to ignoring texts from my mom and pretending my childhood made sense. But that's not what happened. The results came in on a Tuesday morning. I was brushing my teeth before a Zoom call when I got the email notification. I opened the 23andMe app with one hand, toothbrush hanging from my mouth, and there it was, plain as day, identical twin. I just stood there, foaming at the mouth like an idiot, staring at my phone. Identical, not just related, not fraternal, identical. I spat out the toothpaste and sat on the edge of the tub for like 20 minutes. I couldn't even think. I just kept reading the same words over and over. Identical twin. I texted Alex a screenshot. He replied immediately, holy shit. Then, can I call? We talked for 2 hours. At first we were both just kind of stunned, saying the same things in different ways. This is crazy. What the fuck? I can't believe it. Over and over. Then we started getting pissed. I told him what my mom said, that I've always been their son. He said his adoptive parents told him he was adopted as a baby, but never gave him any details. They always said it didn't matter, that he was meant to be with them. He'd never pushed it, but now he wanted answers too. I decided to go over to my parents' house that weekend. They only live about 45 minutes away, but I hadn't seen them in months. We're not super close, even though they always acted like everything was fine. Birthdays, holidays, whatever. But we never talked real stuff. I always thought that was normal. Saturday comes, and I drive over. My dad opens the door and says, "Hey, stranger," like nothing's weird. My mom's in the kitchen like always, cooking something for no reason. I sit down, and they ask how work is. I say fine. We do small talk for maybe 10 minutes before I drop it. I got a DNA test. My mom stops stirring the sauce. My dad freezes halfway through biting into a piece of bread. It's comical how obvious it is. Like a scene from a bad soap opera. And, my mom says, not turning around, "I have an identical twin," I say. "His name is Alex. He lives in Seattle. I met him in Portland." My dad lowers the bread. My mom leans on the counter. No one speaks. Finally, my dad says, "You're not crazy. We always knew this day might come." My stomach drops. My mom sits down across from me. She looks tired, not just physically, but like a part of her has been tired for years. And then she tells me everything. When I was born, I had a twin. She says the pregnancy was rough, early labor, hospital bills, postnatal complications. They were young, broke, and my grandmother, her mom, had a lot of influence over them back then. My mom said grandma insisted they couldn't afford 2 babies, and that it would ruin their lives. That the kindest thing would be to put one up for adoption. My parents were scared and desperate, and they went along with it. They picked me, no reason, just a coin flip, basically. My mom is crying at this point, and my dad is staring at the floor like it's going to swallow him. I'm sitting there, trying to process that my parents gave away a literal part of me and never told me. Not when I was 10, or 18, or 21. Not even after I moved out and got my own health insurance and could have really used a heads up on genetic history. I ask, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" My mom says, "We thought about it. So many times. But how do you even start that conversation?" I say, maybe with, "Hey, you had a brother." She says they always hoped I'd never find out. That maybe he was happy, that it would be better if we both lived separate lives. That telling me would only confuse me. I ask if they ever tried to find him. They say no. At that point, I just get up and leave. I don't slam the door or scream. I don't even cry. I drive home with the windows down and my music off, just trying to stay in my body. I text Alex one word, "Confirmed." He replies, "Same here. My parents told me everything too. Adoption agency, records, all of it." Later that night we FaceTime. He looks like I feel numb. We don't say much, but it feels like we're in the same weird boat, floating in a sea of bullshit we didn't ask for. I don't know what happens now. But I know one thing. My life isn't what I thought it was. After the truth came out, everything felt weirdly calm for about a week. Like the silence after a thunderclap. I didn't talk to my parents. Not because I was trying to punish them or anything, I just didn't know what the hell I'd even say. Every sentence I started in my head turned into a screaming match, so I figured silence was safer. Cleaner. Alex and I, though? We texted constantly. He sent me pictures of him as a kid. Birthday parties, school photos, one where he's holding a trophy that looks exactly like one I won in 3rd grade. Turns out we both played soccer in elementary school. Different cities, different teams, same pose, same grin, same crooked front tooth. I showed him a picture of me with my parents at Disneyland when I was 7. He sent me a picture of him at Disneyland the same year with his adoptive parents. Same week, different universe. We even had the same stupid phase in high school, long hair, beanies, listening to bands that screamed instead of sang. He said he used to get into arguments about politics at family dinners. So did I. Same favorite pizza toppings. Same irrational hatred of raisins. It was getting surreal. I started thinking about what my life would have been like if they hadn't split us up. Would we have been close? Would we have fought like hell? Would we have gone to the same college, played pranks on teachers, covered for each other in dumb situations? Or would we have hated each other? I guess the not knowing is what kills you. A week later, Alex came to visit. We decided it was time. No more FaceTime. No more texting from different states. He flew down on a Friday. I picked him up from the airport. Seeing him walk toward me in person was a full-body experience. Not like looking in a mirror. Mirrors are still. This was like watching myself move, with different gestures, different clothes, but the same bones underneath. We hugged. It was awkward, but real. He stayed with me for the weekend. I gave him the bed and took the couch. Friday night, we went out for beers. We didn't talk about the adoption. We just talked like normal people. Video games, bad exes, annoying coworkers, dumb college stories. It was easy, eerily easy. Saturday morning, we made breakfast. He cooked eggs, I made toast. I caught myself watching the way he moved, the way he held the spatula, like I was trying to memorize my own DNA. He noticed and grinned. "Dude, stop staring, it's creepy." We laughed. It felt good. Then the hard part started. Saturday afternoon, he said he wanted to meet my parents. I asked if he was sure. He said yeah, he wanted to see the people who raised me. The people who gave him away. So I called my mom. Told her Alex was here. Told her he wanted to meet. Silence on the line. Then she said, if he's really ready for that, okay. Come by at 4. I warned Alex not to expect much. He just nodded, said, I just want to look them in the eye. We drove over. He was quiet the whole time. So was I. My mom opened the door and froze. I think seeing both of us together broke something in her. She started crying instantly. My dad came out behind her and just stood there. We went inside, sat around the kitchen table. My parents on one side, me and Alex on the other, like some weird emotional arbitration. No one spoke for a solid minute. Then my mom said, "You look healthy." Alex nodded. "I am." My dad asked, "Do you hate us?" Alex looked down, then back up. "I don't know you well enough to hate you. But I'm angry. You gave me away, and then you never looked for me. That hurts." My mom started explaining again. Same stuff as before. Young, scared, manipulated by her mom. How she thinks about him every year on his birthday. How she always felt something missing. Alex listened. He didn't interrupt. When she was done, he just said, "I believe you. But it doesn't fix anything." It was quiet for a while. Then my dad asked, "Do you want to be part of this family now?" Alex looked at me, then back at them. "I don't know yet." We didn't stay long after that. Everyone was emotionally wrung out. My mom hugged Alex. My dad shook his hand. There were no miracles, no big speeches. Just tired people trying not to fall apart. On the way home, Alex said, "They seem okay. Kinda broken, but okay." I nodded. "That's accurate." He smiled a little. "Guess that runs in the family." That night, we stayed up late drinking beers and watching dumb movies. At one point, I caught him looking around my apartment. "You've got a good life," he said. I shrugged. "So do you." He didn't answer. I wonder sometimes what he sees when he looks at me. A stranger? A brother? A version of himself that never happened? I still don't know what this all means. But I'm starting to think maybe we get to decide that part together. It didn't take long for things to get weird. At first, having Alex around felt like filling in a hole I didn't know I had. He came down to visit twice more over the next couple months. I went up to Seattle once. We started joking that we were making up for 28 years of missed birthdays, one beer at a time. I met some of his friends, he met some of mine. We played co-op games, got drunk and watched movies from our childhoods, started sending each other memes every morning. It was like this fast-forward friendship, crash course in twinhood. Then it started to shift. It was small things at first. I'd notice him ordering the same exact meal I did without asking. Copying how I wore my watch. Laughing the same way I do in front of my friends, even though I knew he didn't laugh like that before. He started using phrases I say, mimicking my text style, reacting to things just like me. It was subtle, but once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it. At first I figured it was just twin stuff. Maybe it was natural, but something felt off, like instead of getting to know me, he was trying to be me. Then came the thing with my ex. Her name's Marissa. We dated for like 2 years. Broke up about 8 months before all this twin drama started. It was mutual-ish. We were just in different places, emotionally. Still, we hadn't talked much since the breakup. She's not some deep wound or anything, but it's not neutral either. Then one day I see her name pop up on Alex's Instagram. He liked one of her selfies. I texted him, joking, "Yo, stalking my ex now?" He replied, "Haha nah," she showed up under suggested. "Chill, okay, fine." 2 days later, I find out they're DMing. Marissa texts me, completely unprompted, "Hey, is that guy in your stories like, your brother or something?" He messaged me. I reply, "Yeah, we're twins. Didn't mean for you to get pulled into the soap opera." She says, "It's fine. He seems nice. Just caught me off guard." I didn't reply, but it bothered me, a lot, so I called Alex, asked what that was about. He said it was harmless. That he was just curious what she was like. "You talked about her a few times," he said, "so I figured, why not see who she is?" I said, "You don't think that's a little creepy?" He paused. "Maybe. I didn't mean it that way." I let it go, but it stuck with me. Next time he visited, he came out to a party with my friends. Everything was normal at first, until I realized he was telling a story I've told before, almost word for word, like a script. A story from my job, that he wasn't even there for. Everyone laughed, but I was just sitting there frozen, like, who is this guy? Later that night, my friend Kyle pulled me aside and said, "Yo, I like your brother, but he's kind of intense. Like he's trying too hard or something." It was the first time someone said out loud what I'd been feeling. After that, I started creating space. Not cold, not rude, just slower to reply, more vague about plans. He noticed. Texted me, "Everything good?" I said, "Yeah, just busy with work." That was true, but not the whole truth. The real truth was, I felt like I was being shadowed by someone who looked like me, sounded like me, and was slowly trying to live my life. It made me paranoid, like if I let him too close, I'd wake up one day and he'd be the one living in my apartment, dating my friends, sitting in my seat. Which is crazy, I know. But feelings don't care if they're crazy. Last week, he called and said he was thinking about moving to Sacramento. Said he liked it here, wanted to be closer. Said he didn't feel like Seattle was home anymore. I froze. I told him I didn't think that was a good idea. Tried to make it about logistics, rent, jobs, whatever. But he heard it in my voice. The hesitation. He said, "You don't want me here." I said, "It's not that." He said, "But it kind of is, right?" I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. He hung up a minute later. No yelling, just silence. I haven't heard from him since. It's been 3 weeks since Alex called. No texts, no memes, no late-night calls about old cartoons we both somehow remembered. It was like a switch flipped and he just vanished from my daily life. At first, I didn't know how to feel. Then I realized I was relieved. And I hated myself for that. There's this weird kind of guilt that comes with knowing someone's trying too hard to connect with you, and still feeling annoyed by it. Like, yeah, he was intense. Yeah, he crossed boundaries. But he didn't ask for any of this. He didn't choose to be separated, or to grow up wondering why no one in his house looked like him. He didn't choose to be that missing piece. That was all decided before either of us could crawl. And maybe I didn't choose any of this either. But I had the comfort of consistency. He didn't. Still, I couldn't shake how uneasy it all had become. I'd catch myself rereading old texts, trying to figure out when the vibe shifted. There was a point where things felt mutual, when we were two strangers with the same face, laughing at the randomness of it all. Then somewhere along the way, it stopped being shared. I was still meeting my brother, and he was rehearsing for a role. I didn't block him, I didn't unfriend him, I just paused, stepped back, and waited. Then last night, out of nowhere, I got a text. Hey. Got time to talk? Short, no emojis, no gifs, just that. My stomach flipped, but I replied, yeah, call me. A few minutes later, he did. His voice was quiet, but not shaky. It wasn't like before, when everything he said came wrapped in nervous energy. This time he sounded settled, grounded. He said, hey. I said, hey. Then there was a pause. A long one. I was about to fill it with something dumb like, how's the weather up there? When he spoke again. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt, for pushing too much, for trying to be close in ways that weren't fair, for crossing lines I didn't even see until it was too late. I sat with that. He went on, I didn't know how to be your brother, Jake. I still don't, but I know I was trying to fast-track something that maybe just needs time. I told him I appreciated that. I said I'd been overwhelmed, that it started feeling like I was losing space in my own life. That every time I laughed or told a story, I could feel him there, absorbing it. Echoing it. He didn't argue. He said, I think I thought if I could just mirror you enough, maybe I'd feel whole. That one stuck with me. He told me he'd started therapy. That it helped. That he'd never really confronted how much he resented being the one given away, but also how deeply he feared being unwanted again. I said, that's heavy, man. He laughed, but not defensively. Yeah, it is. We talked for a while after that. Not about us, about other things. He said he was trying to make Seattle feel like home again. He joined a soccer league. Started dating someone, a woman who didn't even have Instagram, he added with a laugh. He'd been reading more, cooking, trying to focus on being a whole person, instead of a reflection. It was one of the most honest conversations I've ever had with anyone. When we were about to hang up, he said, I'm glad we met. Even if it got messy. I said, yeah, me too. Then we just sat there for a second. Not in awkward silence, just quiet, shared space. Like we were finally okay with letting things breathe. We didn't make plans. No, let's hang out soon, or come visit next month. It didn't feel necessary. There was no need to script what came next. After the call, I sat on the couch for a while, lights off, thinking. This wasn't the twin fantasy people joke about. We didn't finish each other's sentences or feel each other's pain or have some psychic link. We were two men with a shared start and completely different middles. And trying to force a synchronized ending? It only made the split more obvious. But that didn't mean it wasn't real. It just meant it wasn't storybook. Things with my parents are still in progress. I visit every few weeks. There's a weight in the room that never quite lifts, even when we're laughing. It's like we're all tiptoeing around the hole left by a decision made almost 3 decades ago. They've apologized. A lot. But apologies don't rewrite childhoods. Sometimes I look at pictures from when I was a kid and wonder, if Alex had been there, would I have been different? More confident? More competitive? More whole? I'll never know. But I do know this. We both got robbed of something. And we're both trying to figure out what to do with the pieces we have left. So no, we're not best friends. Not some magical reunion story. But we are brothers. And maybe that doesn't have to mean daily check-ins or birthday bar crawls or matching tattoos. Maybe it just means choosing each other. When it matters. When it's real. Maybe that's enough.